Which ranger is the best ranger, and which is the worst? This week, we decide which of these arrow slingers is ending their enemies' careers, and which just took an arrow to the knee. Hello players and GMs, I am Reese and welcome to another video by Jetpack 7. Before we get started today, I want to let everyone know to keep an eye out for some very exciting news we have coming soon. I can't say more than that, but just know that there are great things coming and I can't wait to share the news with you all. Also, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Every little click helps me know whether or not you all like the videos I'm posting, so the more you click, the more I'll post what you all want to see. This week, I am returning to the Archetype rankings with another class I love. I feel like I'm saying that about every single class. I think I just really like D&D. This week's video, I am ranking all of the Ranger archetypes. A lot of people don't like the Ranger in 5e, and I understand why. It does feel pretty underwhelming, and it's no secret to Wizards of the Coast either, with a pretty absurd number of tweaks and buffs to this class over the course of the past few years. None of them have been made official quite yet, though I suspect we may be seeing some of that in the next book, so for today's video, I will have to stick to official content only. None of that Unearthed Arcana stuff will be making it in. So yeah, we know this class can be pretty weak compared to, say, an archery fighter, but how weak is it really? The Ranger class honestly has a good number of options that can make it more relevant than some people think. They get fighting styles, their archetypes are actually pretty strong for the most part, and best of all, they get spells. Spells in 5e are absolutely massive, so it should come as no surprise that this actually offers a good number of options for the Ranger. Sure, it might be most effective to take the sharpshooter feat and sit back shooting arrows at the baddie from 600 feet away, but wouldn't it be way more fun to take the two-weapon fighting style and layer on the Hunter's Mark damage that way? People really underestimate the value of a utility caster in fights, and having one that can also dish out some serious damage can be scarier than you'd think. I think you're getting my point. I enjoy the Ranger because, though less effective than the ideal playstyle, the options it offers are super fun and unique. I feel the need to say this because I think I and many other D&D YouTubers tend to make it sound like we are bashing the less powerful classes or archetypes, but the last thing I want to do is make someone less excited to play a class because it's not as effective in combat. D&D is not about winning, dealing the most damage, or contributing the most in combat. It is about playing the archetype and class you want to play and creating a character whose story and personality is one you enjoy role-playing. Some of my favorite comments I've received are ones that tell me they're about to start a campaign with one of the archetypes I've ranked high on my list, despite many other people ranking that archetype pretty low, and that they're really excited to get started because of how high I ranked them. I can honestly say that I've never played a class or archetype I haven't enjoyed playing from a mechanical standpoint, which I think just goes to show that it's less about the build of your character and more about the people with whom you're playing. If you're at a table or on an online platform with good friends, you're gonna have a good time. All that said, this is a ranking video, so let's go ahead and contradict everything I just said, I guess. At the bottom of the list, to the surprise of nobody, is the Beastmaster. The Beastmaster Ranger is just kind of an unfortunate result of overbalancing, in my opinion. This is an archetype that could potentially be very strong and instead became rather weak. To start off, you gain an animal companion, which has to be a beast of generally around CR 1/2, which is low. It also loses its multi-attack ability if it has one, but does get a couple small buffs from being your companion. It uses your proficiency, adds its proficiency bonus to its AC and damage rolls, and can do ability score increases whenever you do. All things considered, your companion isn't terrible by any means, but the weakness of this archetype comes with features after this. At 5th level, rather than getting extra attack, you get coordinated attack. When you take your attack action, if your companion can see you, they can use their reaction to also make an attack. So this just replaces extra attack with your companion's inevitably weaker attack, and takes more action economy than extra attack by forcing your companion to use their reaction. At 7th level, while your companion can see you, they gain advantage on all saving throws. Again, this is great for the companion, but this does nothing for the Ranger themselves. At 11th level, you get Storm of Fangs and Claws, which allows your companion to make a melee attack against each creature of its choice within 5 feet of it. This is technically great in regards of action economy because that is a lot of potential attacks. But at 11th level, you have to keep in mind that a lot of stuff you're fighting is going to have resistance, if not immunity, to non-magical attacks. and your Beast Companion has non-magical attacks for the entire game. And finally, at 15th level, whenever an attacker your companion can see hits with an attack, they can use their reaction to halve the damage dealt. Again, good for the Beast, does nothing for the Ranger, really. My biggest issue with this archetype is that it literally only gives features to the companion and nothing to the Ranger controlling them. I understand that the point of this class is to have a powerful Beast Companion, but imagine getting into a boss fight with this archetype. Your Beast has all the power, yet because they cannot attune to magic items or anything like that, their attacks will probably do little to no damage. So you're limited to your relatively underwhelming spell list and a single attack every turn. That feels pretty bad, and I feel like solidifies this archetype as written as the weakest in the game. In 4th place, I've put the Monster Slayer. Fortunately for this archetype, this is when Wizards started adding expanded spell lists to Ranger archetypes. The Monster Slayer has a decent list with Protection from Evil and Good, Zone of Truth, Magic Circle, Banishment, and Hold Monster. Protection from Evil and Good is definitely my favorite from that list because otherwise the rest would be much better in the hands of a full caster. At 3rd level, you get a couple features. First, you get Hunter's Sense, which allows you to use an action to essentially learn the resistances, immunities, or vulnerabilities of a creature within 60 feet. Could be pretty handy in the right circumstances, but having to do it as an action feels a little heavy to me. The other feature you get is Slayer's Prey, which is essentially another Hunter's Mark, where each of your attacks deals an additional d6 to one target creature, but you can only use it once between short or long rests. At 5th level, you get Extra Attack, and at 7th level, you get Supernatural Defense, which adds a nice buff to your Slayer's Prey. Whenever the target of your Slayer's Prey forces you to make a saving throw or you attempt to escape their grapple, you can add a d6 to your roll. This is really nice because unlike Hunter's Mark, Slayer's Prey is not concentration, so you can guarantee an additional d6 on all saving throws against a big baddie for the entire fight. At 11th level, you get a sort of counterspell effect with Magic User's Nemesis. When you see a creature within 60 feet try to cast a spell or teleport somewhere, you can use your reaction to force them to make a wisdom save against your spell save DC or the spell fizzles out. You can only do this once per rest again, but still, if they do fail, this could be pretty game-changing. Rangers are one of those classes that don't have to focus on Constitution so much if they go down the archery route, as they tend to do, so your wisdom score can actually be pretty high on your list of priorities, which could actually make your saving throw pretty decent. At 15th level, you get Slayer's Counter, which is probably one of my favorite Ranger features out of all of the archetypes. If the target of your Slayer's Prey forces you to make a saving throw, you can use your reaction to immediately make an attack before making the saving throw. If the attack hits, you automatically succeed on that saving throw. This fits really, really well with the thematics of this archetype, and of course, this is an incredibly powerful feature. Not only do you get to attack and potentially deal damage to the creature, you can also just guarantee that you pass a potentially deadly saving throw. And at 15th level, you really don't want to fail a saving throw against the stuff you're fighting. So yeah, I really like this archetype. Honestly, everything above the Beastmaster is really great as a Ranger, practically even in my book, but this one is just slightly weaker than those above it in my opinion. In 3rd place, I've placed one of my personal favorite Ranger archetypes, despite not having any special spell lists, the Hunter. I love the Hunter archetype because it gives you a number of options at every feature level, each of them benefiting a different strength you may want to reinforce. At 3rd level, you can choose between 3 different features. Colossus Slayer allows you to deal an extra 1d8 damage to a creature you hit if it is below maximum HP once per round. Giant Killer allows you to use your reaction to make an attack against a large or larger creature within 5 feet of you after it makes an attack against you, and Horde Breaker allows you to make an additional attack with the same weapon against a target within 5 feet of your original target once per turn. All of these are obviously cool little damage boosts, nothing crazy by any means, but the extra attacks and damage can definitely start to add up. At 5th level, you get Extra Attack, and at 7th level, you gain Defensive Tactics, which also has 3 more features to choose from. Escape the Horde gives opportunity attacks against disadvantage. Multi-Attack Defense gives you a +4 bonus to AC to all subsequent attacks from a creature when that creature hits you with 1 attack, and Steel Will gives you advantage on saving throws against fear. I like these even more than the first one. They all fill a really nice niche, some benefiting a melee ranger more, others benefiting the archery ranger. Either way, all of them add some really nice defense to your kit. At 11th level, you gain Multi-Attack, which gives you 2 features to choose from. Volley allows you to make an attack against any number of creatures within 10 feet of a point you can see within your weapon's range, and Whirlwind Attack allows you to make a melee weapon attack against any number of creatures within 5 feet of you. Obviously, these are targeted towards either melee or ranged rangers, but Wow, both of these are insane. Volley in particular could be one of the best crowd breaker abilities in the game not involving spellcasting. Beware of this feature if you're a GM who tends to group up their minions in a boss fight. And finally, at 15th level, you gain Hunter's Defense, which again allows you to choose from 3 features. Evasion is, well, evasion. When you fail a dex save, you take half damage. If you succeed, you take none. Stand Against the Tide allows you to use your reaction to force a creature to make an attack against another target if they miss a melee attack against you. And Uncanny Dodge is Uncanny Dodge. Again, when an attacker you can see hits you with an attack, you can use your reaction to have that damage. All of these are wild, and it really makes you appreciate the strength of a rogue. The fact that rogues get 2 of this archetype's capstone features by 7th level is really insane. Overall, I love this archetype because it increases your action economy, which is truly one of the strongest things you can do to make a class powerful in 5e. Nothing it gets is too crazy because many of them are mechanics that exist within other classes or archetypes, but they're all super useful for the playstyle for which they're intended. In second place, I have put the Horizon Walker. Honestly, a big part of the reason I placed Horizon Walker above the Monster Slayer is because the Horizon Walker has a better spell selection. The features of both these archetypes are awesome and very useful in unique ways, but the spell selection of Horizon Walker is just objectively better. They also get protection from evil and good, but then they get Misty Step, Haste, Banishment again, and Teleportation Circle. All of those are some of my favorite spells in the game, so this makes for a pretty potent Ranger spell list. At 3rd level, you get a pretty niche ability called Detect Portal, which allows you to use an action to detect the distance and direction to the closest planar portal within 1 mile of you. Like I said, definitely niche, but I guess if you're running an interplanar campaign, this could come in handy. Also at 3rd level, you get Planar Warrior, which allows you to use a bonus action to mark 1 creature within 30 feet of you. The next time you hit that creature with an attack, all the damage dealt becomes force damage, and the creature takes an extra 1d8 force damage. This feature is nice for a couple reasons. For one, barely anything has force resistance or immunity, and 2, you can do this as many times as you want. It takes a bonus action to do it every turn, but still, there are only a few other things I would use a bonus action for otherwise, so I'd get plenty of use out of this one. At 5th level, you get extra attack, and at 7th level, you get a feature called Ethereal Step. As a bonus action, you can cast Etherealness on yourself without expending a spell slot, but the spell ends at the end of your current turn. This one you can only do once between short or long rests. So basically, this is just a get out of jail free card, literally and figuratively. You can move through walls, creatures, objects, even up and down on the ethereal plane without getting slapped by attacks of opportunity or anything like that. Again, it doesn't carry the same potency of actually casting the spell since it's only for 1 turn, but it can still definitely come in handy. At 11th level, you get Distant Strike, which allows you to teleport up to 10 feet before each of your attacks on your attack action. And if you attack at least 2 different creatures with the action, you can make an additional attack against a 3rd creature. I love this imagery, and honestly, the mobility it offers is really wild. Keep in mind, this isn't just melee attacks, this is any attack. So if you're shooting creatures with a longbow, as long as you choose 2 different creatures, you get 3 attacks, and you can teleport a total of 30 feet, and you still have your movement left. And finally, at 15th level, you gain Spectral Defense. When you take damage from an attack, you can use your reaction to gain resistance to all of that attack's damage on this turn. And again, this one has no limit to how many times you can use it. This is friggin' great. Gaining resistance to an attack every turn can be a lifesaver, especially for a class that may not have the best durability compared to their melee cousins. Overall, I love the Horizon Walker, and it definitely makes a case for itself being one of the stronger Ranger archetypes, no doubt. And finally, the Ranger that I think is the biggest powerhouse of them all, the Gloom Stalker. The Gloom Stalker Ranger gets an expanded spell list with Disguise Self, Rope Trick, Fear, Greater Invisibility, and Seeming. The big 2 that stand out to me are Rope Trick and Greater Invisibility, but the other ones aren't half bad either. You gain 2 features at 3rd level, the first being Dread Ambusher, which is kind of a 2-parter in and of itself. First of all, you gain a bonus 2 initiative equal to your Wisdom modifier. Always great. And then at the start of your first turn in each combat, your movement speed is increased by 10 feet until the end of that turn. In addition, if you take the attack action on that turn, you can make an additional attack as a part of that attack action, and that attack deals an extra d8 damage of that weapon's damage type. This feature is basically just a sharp spike in combat ability right at the beginning of combat, which can make a pretty nice chance to find the right positioning and land a few big hits to start off combat. At 3rd level, you also get Umbral Sight, which is just flat out one of the strongest features of any Ranger archetype, maybe any class archetype in the game. It starts off pretty straightforward by giving you dark vision out to 60 feet unless you already have dark vision, in which case its range increases by 30 feet. The crazy part comes after that when it says, while in darkness, you are invisible to any creature that relies on dark vision to see you in that darkness. So anytime you're in darkness, you're invisible to literally every creature unless they have something beyond dark vision, meaning you have advantage on every single one of your attacks against those creatures, and they have disadvantage on attacks against you if they can even find you. Not to mention being able to avoid all the spells that have that qualifier of a target that you can see. Now, granted, this has to be in full darkness, but I think you'll find that you're fighting in darkness more times than you'd expect. A torch only makes light out to 40 feet, so if your party is carrying a torch and you run 40 feet away from them at the start of combat with your extra 10 feet of movement speed, all of your attacks now have advantage. Okay, moving on. At 5th level, you get extra attack, and at 7th level, you gain proficiency in wisdom saves. If you already have proficiency in wisdom saves, you can choose between charisma or intelligence instead. This is also incredible because wisdom saves are always the product of the most debilitating spells and effects in the friggin' game. If I'm not mistaken, I believe they are the most common saving throw in the game. They're at least right up there with Constitution and Dexterity. So having proficiency in those is a game changer, not to mention your wisdom save is already probably pretty decent since wisdom is your spellcasting ability. At 11th level, you gain Stalker's Flurry, which allows you to make an additional weapon attack when you miss with an attack on each of your turns. Essentially just a redo button, which is never a bad thing. And at 15th level, you gain Shadowy Dodge. Whenever a creature makes an attack roll against you and doesn't have advantage on the roll, you can use your reaction to impose disadvantage on it. You have to do it before you know the outcome of the attack roll, but this is still awesome. And honestly, this is a great use of a reaction. If you're an archery ranger, you're not getting many opportunity attacks, so this is probably the best use of your reaction that you'll find outside of certain spells. Overall, this archetype is really wild, and I think it makes for a rather potent ranger, contrary to the popular belief that rangers can't be powerful. They may not be the most powerful class in 5e, heck, they might even be the weakest, but they are by no means weak or unplayable, and this archetype in particular gives other classes a run for their money when it comes to effectiveness in combat. Alright, that is my ranking for all of the Ranger archetypes in 5th edition. Let me know in the comments below what you think of my ranking and if I got it totally wrong. Next video in this series will cover a crowd favorite, the sneaky stabbers themselves, the Rogue. This is going to be a tough one because Rogues' archetypes are all wildly different, so I'm looking forward to seeing what you all think of my ranking. But until then, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you around.